The BYU Cougars are closing in on rivalry week. It is the end of their bye week this week, ranked 9th in the country, looking ahead to a matchup against Utah. We're getting updates from Connor Pay on how the bye week has gone, updates on his health, and also an early look at the Utes.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? I'm Jake Hatch, your host here on Locked On Cougars, resident BYU insider. Thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first view and or listen of the day. And obviously a big thank you to all of you who like to call our everydayers right here on your original daily podcast focused on the BYU Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com. Your first $5 bet, if it wins, will net you $150 in bonus bets. All you got to do is win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. All right, please welcome in now BYU team captain, all-around good gentleman, and a great friend of this podcast. He is Connor Pay. And Connor, I wanted to start off with this. How is the bye week treating you? How's intern life overall?
Good. It's been a good week. It's nice to have a little extra time to get a jump on Utah and stuff. But no, it's been good. It's an extra week for me to catch up. That's the bye week lets me come back one game sooner. So, I'm happy that we have the bye week.
Now, obviously, you've been on the shelf for a little bit here. When you initially got the injury, there was some hope that Utah might be the game that you would return. You've talked about it for the last 2 weeks. It's looking more like the Kansas game. I understand you had some further testing done. So I'm just going to let you explain where are things standing right now health-wise for you.
Yeah, still right on track. But, yeah, it just wasn't quite enough time, to the Utah game. And so it was it was Utah was 6 weeks exactly.
Okay.
From the day I broke my foot, that's fast, to get back and playing. But honestly, the bone is healing great. It's the transition of the rest of my body, that we just need a little extra time for. So I don't do something to a calf or an Achilles or something like that. Because thankfully with the progression, I've been able to lift upper body. I'm cleared to do a lot more lower body lifting and stuff now. And, so I think the progression is going to be pretty good. And so once I get cleared, it's a fast progression, but it's probably not going to be that Kansas week because they just want to give, as much time as possible for that bone to really heal. And it's looking great. It looks great on the x-rays today. And so it just needs a few more days and then I can start, transitioning into field work again.
Now, I'm going to get into a question real quick from a listener because it fits right in with what we were just talking about with regards to where you're at physically. And Ty reached out and said this. Can you ask Connor if he's lost weight? He was looking quite svelte on the sideline down there at UCF.
No, I haven't. I'm about the same weight. I'm sitting at about 310 right now.
Okay.
And, thankfully, since the injury was purely lower body, I've been able to be lifting full-time upper body and all that stuff. So I haven't lost anything there. And they're able to find unique ways to really we've talked about BFR and some stuff like that before, I've regained a lot of the muscle mass on my left leg just from BFR alone. It's been pretty amazing. And so, I've been able to stay in relatively good shape. And there's a lot of unique ways in the pool and on an assault bike and things like that where they've been able to keep my lungs ready to go. Because that's honestly going to be the hardest transition is, going in and being able to play, 8, 10, 12 play drives. That's going to be the hard part. I think with everything I'm doing physically to prepare, I don't think the transition is going to be that challenging on my muscles. The challenge is going to be, making sure I'm in shape to sustain drives and do that. And so, thankfully, the strength staff, has found all kinds of diabolical ways to keep me in shape.
Diabolical. Okay. Yeah, well, knowing what I know of Coach Phyllis and his staff, I wholeheartedly believe that they were probably scheming up a bunch of stuff to obviously keep you engaged, obviously physically, and get you ready. Now, the other question I wanted to ask you is: you guys are now 8-0. You win at UCF, and you win kind of going away. You ran for another 250 yards on the ground. So, give me a sense. Does the team, when you guys perform the way you did against UCF, in some ways, you kind of miff that you have to take a bye week? Would you rather just keep playing?
I mean, I think we got really lucky with how the bye weeks lined up for us, where I think it was 5 games bye, 3 games bye, 4 games to finish. Like, I think it was, I think the timing was pretty perfect, and honestly, outside of myself, we're pretty remarkably healthy at this point in the year compared to years past.
Yeah.
And so, but honestly, like that's great to just have this bye week for guys to just recover from general fatigue, and we're heading into November. Nobody feels good in November, and so, having a bye leading up to that, let the guys get feeling a little better for this final stretch of the season, of the regular season at least, and then, but no, it's I mean, when you're playing, you can't wait for the next game. But also at the same time, we're grateful for the time to recover and also a little extra time to prepare.
Now, I also wanted to ask you with regards to UCF, there was a timeout that was called pretty late in that one by UCF, and you happened to be on screen on the TV broadcast with your mouth kind of agape, and you weren't the only one from your team. How crazy was that to see Gus Malzahn call that timeout, because that game was over?
Well, yeah, I think I remember some people sent me clips of that. I looked like an idiot, but I was genuinely confused. I was like, we're just going to take another knee. Maybe he's savoring his last few minutes as head coach. I guess maybe he wanted to just extend those last few minutes for that DC because he knew he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe that's what it was. But I was just kind of like, what was the point of that? What was the point of that? I was a little confused, but I mean, I get it. We're gonna the message. We're gonna fight to the end and all that stuff. Like, I understand, but I was kind of just in the moment. I was kind of like, what are we doing?
Yeah, well, I don't think you're the only one. You just happened to be caught on camera when that all went down. I think all of us watching the game as well were like, what is going on here? This game's over. But hey, let's move along now. Give me a feel also, just speaking of the team. 8-0, you guys have exceeded all expectations. You're number 1 in the conference because you guys are 5-0 in conference play. Nobody else has that record right now in conference play. I know Iowa State could get there this coming weekend, but give me a sense. How is the team feeling right now overall about how you guys have performed to this point?
Good. Obviously, can't be mad about being 8-0, but I think we're just we're focused on Utah now. 8-0 means nothing for this game. It doesn't, like I said, and I've said all year long, every week is individual of the others, and so it doesn't matter that we're 8-0. We got to go and earn the right to play well against Utah, and that started with practice this week. And I thought a lot of people, there's a little bit of a lull sometimes in bye weeks, and I didn't feel that at all. I felt like practice was urgent and it was intense. I think the guys understand the magnitude of this game too, and because we're fired up. We're playing a lot of our friends. We want to win badly, and I think we just have to keep resetting every week, and it's a 1-game season every week. Win where your feet are, win what's right in front of you, win the day. And I think as long as we keep that mindset, we'll be okay.
Now, you talk about Utah, a lot of interest obviously in this one because it is the rivalry game for good reason. There's a reason why I think the Big 12 put both of y'all on a bye, because they wanted it to be played up a little bit over 2 weeks to build up the hype for it and that whole thing. We're going to dig more into that. We'll kind of get your mindset, obviously coming out of the bye week, looking ahead to next week, going into that matchup, and we'll dig into that momentarily as we roll on right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Our friends at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan is not just a hobby, it's really just a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, and obviously those agonizing overtime periods when the game is drawing to a late hour. That's why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel, the energy shot made just for super fans like you. Think about this. They are the first in the parking lot and the last to leave. They see you and they want to hook you guys up. The best part is you can do everything you need to do and on any given day, but more importantly on game day with the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot. It doesn't matter what team you root for, speaking in this case of BYU, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. So whether you're prepping for the big tailgate, ironing your jersey, or simply doing anything else on a game day, your to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here for you guys to keep you fueled throughout the season. So check it out today. That's available on 5hourenergy.com and available to be shipped nationwide. Go check it out today. Once again, at 5hourenergy.com. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first view and or listen of the day. Rolling on here with Connor Pay. And Connor, the rivalry game is a big one. I know that you grew up in the state, so you know it better than most. On my radio show, we had Kelly Papinga, one of your assistant coaches, on with DJ and PK. And he said that in a team meeting that he actually essentially asked the entire team, how many of you guys have played in this game? He said that 10 guys, a grand total of 10 guys, raised their hand who had played in this matchup. And he said, it's kind of crazy to consider. It was just 3 years ago that you guys last played Utah, but how much the turnover has happened. So give me a sense. What's the team know about Utah? Is there a feeling that this is an actual rivalry? Are you going to have to clue some guys into what it means for this state?
I don't think so. I think everybody fully understands what this game means.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really, honestly, we've talked about this before, how the rivalry is a lot more toxic on social media than it is amongst the players, right? So all people have to do is go scroll their Twitter feed for about 5 minutes this week, and you'll see what this rivalry means to people in the state of Utah. But yeah, no, it was. Coach K-Pop literally said, raise your hand if you played in this game, and it's like me and Ty Batty are sitting next to each other. We raised our hands, and we're like, kind of like looking around, and it was like John Nelson and a couple other guys, Keanu Hill, and we were like, "Oh, geez," and it's weird to think it was a while ago. Like that was my second start of my career with Utah game. That was 45 something starts ago or whatever. And so it has been a while. It has been a while, but no, I think the rivalry juices are still there. And red hot, in both locker rooms. And like I said, a lot of us are friends. We're not talking, over these next couple weeks. We're not overly interested in each other right now. And it's not like the Wyoming game where we had to dig into 20 some years ago to find a rivalry somewhere. Where it's like to get us all hyped up for that game. It's like that wasn't a rivalry. Those guys are trash. That's no rivalry. Nobody cared for that game. It's a lot different for this one. Nobody has to do any explaining. Everybody knows what this game means.
So there's not a lot of text messages going back and forth, it sounds like that. I can understand that. Now, Bryce did ask this question. My question is kind of twofold for Connor. Does he have many friends on Utah's team? I think you've already essentially said that you do have a bunch of friends over there. But then he adds this. If he does, do you make any friendly wagers on this type of a game?
Nope, because the NCAA doesn't allow us to do that.
Okay.
So that's my official answer.
Okay, fair enough. Toe the line. Good man. I appreciate that. Now,
the team will be proud of me.
Now, the other thing is, obviously, you mentioned the fact that it is more toxic and more hyped up on social media, these two fan bases going at one another. But when it comes to the game itself, it's one of those true rivalry games. And there's a podcast I love listening to called The Solid Verbal, and they always talk about rivalry games, throw the records out of the window. And this is one of those rivalries. I absolutely agree with that. You guys are 8-0. The Utes are 4-4, and they're kind of on different planes, as it were, with regards to where your seasons are projecting right now. But quite honestly, I wouldn't be thinking of anything other than, hey, you got to be fully focused on this game. And I'm going to anticipate your answer is it's been that way since earlier this week, as you've had a 2-week buildup to this.
Yeah, no, it has been. And I mean, the good thing for us is it's been our mindset of every game of the year. Throw your record out the window. It doesn't mean jack.
Okay.
You know, and 8-0 doesn't mean anything if you go out there and crap the bed. You know, like it really doesn't mean anything. Nobody cares. All right. And so it's a 1 week season, in this case, 2 week season, you know, and so we have one job to do, one game to win.
Well, and obviously you mentioned the fact that you guys are fully focused on that. The thing is, you grew up in a family, your dad played for BYU. So you've essentially been in the rivalry your entire life. Are there going to be teammates of yours that you'll have to kind of explain the dynamic of what the fans are like? Does that make sense? Like, I know you talk about the on-field stuff, you have the field, the on-field, but do you have to kind of like wise some guys up who may be coming in from out of state that maybe aren't fully aware of what these two fan bases one another?
I don't know if we have to explain it. I think now with social media, it's pretty easy to just see it.
Okay.
You know, I don't know if we have to go and explain how. I mean, we talk about it, obviously.
Okay.
Most of the time in a joking manner, because it's like, man, these guys are going at each other on Twitter or something, and, you know. And so, no, I don't think it. Like I said, I think everyone understands the magnitude of this game, both on the field and for the fan bases.
Now, you guys obviously snapped a 9-game losing streak to Utah the last time you guys played, and it's crazy to think it's been 3 years since you guys have played. It just feels like that was almost yesterday in my world because it doesn't seem like it's that long ago. But you mentioned the fact there's been a bunch of turnover on your roster. I know the same things happened to Utah. Give me just kind of an early look. You have had essentially a week's worth of work looking at their film, getting ready for this. But give me a sense of what you see from Utah on tape and what you expect, quite honestly.
I mean, obviously they've had their challenges, but the majority of those challenges has come on the offensive side of the ball. So for us, we have our work cut out for us. They're still a Utah defense. You know, they're still very good. And I know they've had some struggles in a couple games too. And they've had some injuries and things like that, but a lot of guys are going to be back for this game. And so the thing is with Utah, they've run the same defense for 15 years, right? You know what you're going to get, and they don't care that and they're just going to line up and say our 6 or 7 are better than your 6 or 7 in the box, and they're going to come right after you. And that hasn't changed. And Utah still, for the most part, like I said, there's some outliers, but they've played well on defense this year. And so we're fully aware of that as an offense. And this is going to be a dogfight for us, and especially up front because they're really good on the defensive front. You know, and I think especially if they have Tanavasa and Junior Tafuna back, you know, and then Logan Fano over there on the edge and Van on the other side. And I remember, I think it was one of Van's first starts too with me last time we played, but we both sucked back then. So yeah, Van wasn't very good back then. Neither was I. You go back and watch the tape, and Van's playing great this year, you know, and so, you know, gonna have our work cut out for us. We're excited for it though. And I think we're prepared for it because we played a really skilled interior last week at UCF, and I think it was good for Bruce to experience a really skilled defensive lineman because he kind of he's big and strong. He has no problem with those big strong nose guards, but he got to experience the first time ones that had a little twitch and actually have pass rush moves and things like that. And Bruce got smoked a couple times in the game, but that's kind of the only way to learn how to handle it. And so I think that was, you know, the timing worked out really good for him to face UCF, get to experience that before he has to go play this really skilled D lineman that Utah has, you know, across the board. So can have our work cut out for us up front, but we're fired up for it.
All right, last thing on the Utah front for now. We will discuss this more in depth next week because it'll be game week and we can get more into the particulars. But I'm going to read this question from Josh. And Connor, this is an absolutely phenomenal question. I'm going to read it verbatim. I'm going to let you take it any which way you want. And it's got a partial statement, but also question in it. So stick with me on this. Is this coming from Josh? Quote, back in the day, Bronco Mendenhall was big on the, quote, nameless faceless, unquote, approach to the rivalry game. In other words, removing all emotions from the prep, practice, planning, in-game strategy, etc. Says this season it's clear that some players, or if not all the players at BYU, do feel motivation by certain things like being underrated, Vegas lines, projecting them as underdogs. Where do you, speaking of you, Connor, fall on that scale specifically as it relates to the Utah game? And then he adds this, P.S., I love you, go Cougs, and please, for the love of all that is good in this world and the next, beat the Utes by 50 for me.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between playing with passion and playing with emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Where passion can come out and can kind of be an asset. Where Coach Woods has a saying, whereas emotions go up, intelligence goes down. And so we're trying to be, as an offensive line, we want to be consistent all the time. Right. He has another phrase, the environment changes, we don't, and so we're going in right to Rice-Eccles Stadium, but the second you walk between those lines, it's the same as any other day playing football, and so obviously there's some other things attached to this game, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who can execute their technique and their assignment better than the person across from them, regardless of if it's a rivalry game or not, so I think we can have a little more of that. I think there's kind of naturally a little more passion for this game. And I think that often happens when you play against your friends, all growing up, the times you get to play your friends in Little League or in basketball or something, they mean a little more, and so, but I think when that gets to the point where you get emotional about it, that's when people start to play outside themselves and make mistakes a little bit. And because like Coach Wood says, the environment changes, we don't. And when emotions go up, intelligence goes down. And so we want to make sure that we stay at our high level, but we stay here. We don't get up too high and we don't get down too low. And so I think that's kind of the approach we take, that honestly, there's a lot of cool things surrounding this game, but once we set foot between those white lines, it's the same as any other day.
Well, it's cool to hear. And obviously, we'll be talking more about this game next week as it officially kicks off rivalry. We get a 2-week lead up to it, so it's been kind of fun in that regard. Just have some extra time to dig into it. But we will finish up this edition with Connor coming up next with some other questions. And Connor, we got some doozies in here, man. We're going to put you on the spot, so get ready. We'll get to those. We'll get to that momentarily right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. This NFL season, you get ready to tackle all the action with our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Simple as that. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to be able to place your live bets on the NFL and really any other sport, and it's all in one place. So you get the hunch in the middle of a game, you want to take advantage of maybe some inside intel you feel like you've got. You can check out the latest stats, your live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you're placed those bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. As simple as that. That's how FanDuel.com does it for you guys. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first view and or listen of the day. Final stanza of today's show with BYU team captain Connor Pay. And Connor, I'm going to start you off with a football-related one. We got some non-football related ones because it's a bye week, obviously. But I'm starting with a football-related one. This comes from Cameron. He says this: I got a question for Connor. In what way has Jake Retzlaff improved the most up to this point from Connor's perspective?
If I had to just pick one thing, probably just his overall maturity within the game. And I'm not talking about maturity in the sense like as an individual or his character, but like his maturity as a football player. Because he was just, last year, if we're being honest, he got thrown into a really hard situation and he was just a young kind of gunslinger, right? Didn't have much experience. And I think through the offseason, and I think Gary being here helped him a ton in that aspect too, because Gary's very, very poised, very mature, has led teams to, Sugar Bowl years and conference championships and stuff. And so I think Jake was able to pull from some of that in the summer too. And he's just so much more in control of what's going on during the game and his command of the huddle. It's been fun from my perspective to watch that change, over time. To our a little bit emotional last year. We kind of go up and down. Things, weren't going well and didn't really kind of have the respect of the huddle yet. And now to get to the point where he's making great decisions, and I think that's one of the biggest areas of improvement too is balls he would have forced last year. He's throwing away or hitting the check down or doing something like that. And so all of those things are just signs of him maturing as a quarterback and as a player. Because people were hard on him, but it's now he has 12 starts. So like he just completed a freshman year pretty much, right? And so it's like they're hammering on this kid and he hadn't even started a full year yet. And I think now we're starting to see what that experience is bringing him. And he's making great decisions, commanding the huddle really well. And so, like I said, it's been fun for me on the outside looking in and just being in the huddle and watching how he does things, having been a part of 3 really good and commanding quarterbacks and Zach, Jaron, and Keaton, who knew how to command a huddle. It's kind of watching him develop into that. It's been pretty fun.
So he's on that same track. You're seeing that from your perspective then.
Absolutely.
Okay. Very cool.
Okay,
well, that's good. Now, Cameron did add this. If you could tell Connor for me, I'm still working on the cutting board that I promised him. So apparently, So there you go. Apparently, Cameron must have been trying to hook you up, apparently. So that's really cool to see that. Now, other questions here come in, and I've got like 4 or 5 people who made a similar statement / question here, saying essentially, I could tell Connor was much more engaged coaching guys on the sideline during the UCF game. And I'm generalizing like 5 people's question here. And they kind of want to get a sense for what you're actually doing on the sideline. Are you just pumping guys up? Are you breaking it down? Are you telling them where they screwed up? How are you handling stuff on the sideline?
Yeah, so most people probably just see me scooting around trying to keep up with Coach Woods because he's a mover on the sideline. But all I'm trying to get from him is what play we're running.
Okay.
So I can watch what's going on in the field. But then I have a sheet of paper with where I break down the defense on it. Then I basically write down the play, and we can now watch the drives on the Microsoft tablets on the sideline. So I'll come down. They give me a chair next to Bruce in the kind of the starting 5 circles. So it's Caleb, Waylon, me, Bruce, Austin, and Kime. And we sit around coach like this, and then me and Bruce have one of those tablets, and we go through the drive together and just talk through it. Things he did well, things he screwed up, all that stuff. And then once we're done kind of talking through things as a whole, I'll take that iPad and or the Microsoft tablet, and I'll go through every play, and I'll chart out what the defense did. And I'm just trying to find any cues I can on how they're attacking us, where the blitzes are coming from, where they're setting the front, all this. Because UCF was a unique defense where they were very game by game. They were very different each game. And so it was going to be a big kind of figure out what they're doing and make some halftime adjustments type game. And so that's pretty much what I'm doing on the sideline is I'm just trying to find anything I can that I can, share with Coach Woods that can get us into good runs or something like that, or just trying to find any keys that I can. And UCF honestly didn't have very many, but we kind of got a feel for what they were doing overall, but there weren't any specific tells. There were a couple in like the Arizona game where by halftime I was dialed on what they were doing. And, I was able, me all proud, going to give my chart to Coach Woods at halftime, hey, hopefully this helps. And it's like I circled all this stuff where they had done the same thing repeatedly.
Yeah.
And I'm like all excited. Of course, he didn't say anything about it. But we made some good adjustments. No, and it's funny for me because it's like I'm not a coach.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing all this stuff. I'm finally picking things up. And I go to tell Coach Woods and I go, hey, you see their blitz and this? He's like, yeah, they're doing it all in the back. And I was like, I just spent 30 minutes figuring that out. and he just knows just by watching because he's been doing it for so long. So
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know if I'm actually helping. Like, I hope I am. Like, but at the same time, it keeps me engaged in the game. And I know it's helpful for Bruce to have me sit down with him each drive and go through everything together. And that's pretty much what I'm doing.
All right. Next question. Weston asked this. Can you ask Connor if the SpaceX rocket launch was as cool as it sounded on the radio?
Honestly, it was so far away from us that I didn't really know. Like, there was during a timeout where we could look up, we could barely see it, but like it was super far away. So honestly, it wasn't like, I wish it would have been closer. I'm sure it would have been sweet. But it was, I mean, I think the launch point was like 35 miles from the stadium or something. So we saw it like way off in the distance, but that was it.
Now, he does ask this. Could you also ask me if he had the opportunity, would he take a rocket to Mars and if he would play a football game on Mars?
Like, if it was an option to travel there and play a game.
If what Elon's talking about doing in the next like 10, 20, 30 years is legitimate.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would do that 100 times out of 100.
Okay, very cool. Now, other question from Weston here. This is a good one. Like 2 or 3 more that will fit in here. It says, what's one aspect of the game that he feels that BYU has been performing poorly in lately? And as a team captain, you have a direct impact on that on all aspects of the game. So how do you expect to address it, if anything?
Like team wide,
what it sounds like. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know if I can pinpoint anything specific that's like team wide because everything's broken up into categories, right?
Yeah.
So
well, he's got one for you. He's got on his end.
Oh, okay. Let's hear that.
It says this. I want to know what you're going to do to plan to start winning the ... coin toss.
Well, our record's pretty good when we don't.
Yeah.
And I'll take losing the coin toss and winning the game every time. So not overly concerned about the coin toss. But I mean, yeah, I would love to win the coin toss. I called about half of those. When I'm doing the coin toss, I'm the voice. So yeah, it sucks to be like tails and like heads. And you're like, gosh.
Are you okay? What's your strategy? You tails never fails guy. What's your strategy there?
No, I just go with my gut. Whatever I'm feeling up there.
Got it. Okay.
Whatever I'm feeling up there.
Okay.
Just go for it. Yeah, I don't know if I can think of anything team wide that's like a glaring issue.
Mm-hmm.
If we had any of those, we probably wouldn't be 8-0. But obviously we can always keep improving at the details. And it's just little things like dressing, grooming standards, right? Making sure your hair is cut the right way. Don't wear earrings at the facility. I think that's one way we could probably improve, and we've been addressing that this bye week as a team. On offense, I think we do need to be a little better in the red zone. Because we were the first 6 games, we were awesome in the red zone. We're great in red zone scoring, but touchdowns have gone down a little bit in the red zone. We've kicked a little more field goals lately. And so I think that's one area that we can improve. And I know A-Rod's talked about improving his touchdowns in the red zone. Got to get back to where we were first 5 or 6 games of the year where it was, 3 out of 4 times we were getting touchdowns, 4 out of 5, 6 of 7, all that stuff.
All right. I've got conservatively 20 more questions in here. I'm going to do 2 non-football ones though on a bye week here before we wrap it up, Connor. So first one, and this comes from Jason. He says that my non-football related question for Connor. Last week we learned on BYU TV that Caleb Etienne loves to fish. Is Connor a fisherman, and are there many guys on the team that take advantage of our great outdoors in the state of Utah?
I am not a big fisherman, but yes, a ton of guys on the team take advantage of the outdoors.
Okay.
A lot of guys love to go hunting, fishing, all that stuff. And, I need Tree to take me out there and teach me how to freaking fish the right. I know how to fish in the general sense. I've gone with friends and family a bunch of times, but there are people who really know how to fish on the team. And it's I want to learn how to do that. And so I'm going to need this call. I want Kime to take me hunting this year, and I want Tree to take me fishing. So I'm going to have to get him to do that.
Is Braden Kime a scout? Is he good at hunting? Okay.
Oh, yes. The Kimes are hunting. Whenever you get a chance to talk to Braden again, Ask him about the story of his dad and Ty Detmer before a game.
Ooh. Now I'm very intrigued. I might have to make a request for next week during media availability.
Yeah.
I need to get this story.
Next time you get a chance to talk to Braden, ask him about that story.
All right. Last word will go to Robert here, Connor. I know you love this question. And he says this, I still want to know, where is the future Mrs. Pay? Smiley face.
Somewhere. I can't find her. But she's somewhere out there.
Hey.
Hopefully at this point, hopefully I can just make it to the NFL. If I can make that last, get to contract number 2. Once you get $3-4 million a year, somebody will marry you. You know, just one of those things where it's like, look, she may love me a little less, but she's gonna be hot and she's gonna be mine.
There you go.
It might be for the money, but whatever at this point. Who marries? It's 2024. Who marries for love anymore? I'm just kidding. We've got. We won't go into details, but as Jake knows, there are things in the works.
Yeah, let's put it this way.
There's things that have been and will be, are. It's kind of all over the place.
There's also certain media members who are apparently trying to hook you up as well. Not me. I'll be very clear. It's not me doing it, but there's certain media members. We'll talk off air about this. We've talked about this. Know. All right.
I don't remember names, but maybe we have talked about it.
All right. Well, Connor, enjoy your weekend, obviously, and obviously looking forward to next week. And I think Cougar fans are excited to see you back out on the field, albeit not for Utah, but the week after that against Kansas.
Yeah. Wanted to be out there so bad, but Bruce is going to hold it down. He's been playing really well, so I got full confidence in the boys. And man, it sounds like we need to just do an episode that's just straight questions. Geez, if you got 20 more.
Oh, and we very well might have to. We can.
Maybe we'll have to do that next week since we already talked about most of the Utah questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what we can do next week. But Connor, thanks as always, my man.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that's Connor Pay. I'm Jake Hatch. Thanks as always once again for making Locked On Cougars your first view and or listen of the day. Enjoy your weekend. Come Monday, folks, it's rivalry week. We're getting you ready for BYU and Utah all week long. We'll be talking with JT Wistersill, host of Locked On Utes. We'll have a lot of coverage, obviously, getting you ready for that matchup up at Rice-Eccles Stadium next Saturday night. So until then, have a great rest of your day. Thanks again for making Locked On Cougars your first view and or listen of the day. And as always, thank you to all of you who are everydayers with us right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.